All right. Well, good morning, everybody. Good afternoon. Sorry, I'm all over the place. As you can see, I got my date wrong. I got colors wrong. But I told you I would wear my Halloween costume. So I figured some of you might recognize this one. It was fun wearing this out in Las Vegas. This is from the Squid Game. So if you don't recognize it, I'm one of the VIPs. And actually, as I was in Vegas, I was handing out this card to everybody, which is kind of cool because it has that on the front, and on the back, it has a QR to my YouTube channel. So anyway, thought that would be kind of fun. Still under the weather, guys. Sorry about yesterday. And you are right, Maverick. You didn't miss a show. Yesterday I had to call in sick. Called in sick to my own show. That was fun. It's actually November 3rd today, but for some reason I thought it was November 2nd. But at least I got it right on this one. There it says November 3rd on the titles card for the screen. So I do feel a little bit better. My fever broke. It was weird. I came back from Las Vegas and had almost 103 temperature, and I was like, oh, that's not good. So I took a couple COVID tests and negative on those, so we're good there. Just caught some kind of bug and still achy, but hopefully we'll get back to normal here in a couple days. So my energy level may be a little bit more subdued today. Anyway, yeah, I missed you guys. It was kind of a good vacation to get up there to Las Vegas. It's nice to see actually Vegas getting back to somewhat normal. I enjoyed it a lot. Being sick of the price, yeah, it is. It's funny, Gary, because for those of you who know the band Fish, they jam, and I saw 4 nights in a row, and on the Halloween night, which they usually do 3 sets, and they play usually an album of some other band. They came on stage at 8 o'clock at night, and they finished at 1:45 in the morning, and you're dancing the entire time, so it was pretty crazy. It was good, a lot of fun, but I'm glad to be back, and I'll probably, after I finish this, go right back to bed. Go to lay down. Anyway, let's kick things off and get into our topics du jour. I didn't have time to prepare a big talk track, so I just kind of opened up the mailbag and saw a bunch of questions that came in, so we'll dive into that. The main thing for today, anyway, was Jerome Powell. Of course, we had FOMC meeting today. We had the press conference afterwards, which is really my favorite part of it, to see how he squirms. And today, he was squirming quite a bit and backpedaling on a lot of the different topics. Now, for those who don't know, I didn't watch it. He was praising the economy at 6.5% growth, blah blah blah, and talking about mostly positive things. He did look at Q3 GDP, and he thought that Q3 GDP is going to start to shrink because of travel and leisure. He talked about economic growth. The big takeaway, which we were talking about on the show, and I was saying, look, I just, if they're going to meet that objective to be done with tapering and kind of our quantitative easing here by June of next year, they have to start as soon as possible. And that was announced today that mid-November they will be cutting back on Treasury purchases by $10 billion a month and mortgage-backed securities by $5 billion a month. Now, right now, they're doing $80 billion of Treasuries and $40 billion of mortgage-backed securities. So, essentially in an 8-month window, they should be able to cut all of the current spending. Now, what was interesting, for those of you who are trading today, if you saw these markets, holy shnikes, not only did they react, they just continued to react. And I guess I should leave more often, right? You guys had nothing but updates since I left for vacation. So let's just, Les, I love it. He says, will you be getting rid of that silly yellow box? Well, let's get there. That was actually a question that came through. So right now you're seeing all-time highs for everything. You have the NASDAQ, as you can see today, up 1%, really not taking any negative read on what Powell was talking about. And if you think about it, they're pulling out one of the financial backstop of the economy. They're potentially allowing rates to free float a little bit and let that short end of the yield curve rise. By not buying these treasuries, that short end could start to rise real quick, which would very quickly put pressure on housing markets and corporate debt. So to me, I'm surprised at this. I am currently freeing up some cash positions to, when the time permits and I get my readings right, go short this market again. Right now, it seems like caution is absolutely just not even thought about. Nobody's thinking about downside movement. But I look at these price charts and it's saying it's screaming for a pullback. We've had on the NASDAQ here in particular, this is a daily. You can go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16 days. So almost over 3 weeks of trading activity 2 down days. That's unprecedented, and the moves aren't like small. They're really, really big. So NASDAQ looking great. We'll go to the S&P 500, which also ripped through that ceiling in the yellow box there, which we can get rid of, but maybe use it as a retest level. All-time highs right now at 46.41. You have the Dow as well, ripping to all-time highs. And then, as Les is alluding to, here is the Russell 2000. And that yellow box, which we stayed in forever, has now officially been deleted. There you go, Les. Happy? Are you happy now? I'm happy. I think it's good to have the Russell back in play. I did not think actually that we would see it rip to the upside like we did, but hey, now the question is breakout trade. Where do you see it going? And I'll get to that a little bit later on. That was a question from one of the viewers. So all in all, this is completely shrugging off the expectations of or the reality that the Fed is going to start to taper here. And to me, when the Fed is done tapering, that's a lot of buying power removed from the market. And I think that that's going to be a little, I don't know. I think that's a scary sign going forward. I also wanted to show you here, let's go into the 10-year yield. So this is your 10-year yield, which did spike a little bit today. It wasn't a dramatic move, but basically I think that what you'll see going forward is if the Fed is going to buy $10 billion less per month of mortgage-backed or of treasuries, then that means that their grip on the short end of that yield curve is getting less and less. So this is, in my opinion, you're going to see this start to rise and rise and rise. And, if we get to that 2% mark like we were back in late last year, late 2019, then I think you're going to get an interesting talk track from the Fed about how they may have to start buying mortgage-backed securities and treasuries again to help keep things down. But I think that talk track will start to change once we get to 2%. And the fact that they are tapering really tells me that we're going to get to that 2% line rather quickly. Tom, you already missed the yellow box. Sure, as an options trader, of course, Tom, you missed that yellow box. All right, so that's the 10, and this is the 30-year as well, so not as strong. Of course, it's a much longer term maturity, but the 10-year is really more in control by the Fed as opposed to the 30, and of course the short-term treasuries is the real short-term side of it. So that was a surprise to me. I think that you'll see the market ultimately start to react from this, just not in the bullish way. And today, again, we were shrugging off almost any negative comments out there, and there was quite a bit. He talked about a wage price spiral, which is when you have wages rallying and you have prices rallying. And right now, I think that is a pretty big potential problem here. We do have wages are increasing, which of course is good, but when you have wages increasing, that leads to more spending. And of course, when you have a supply shortage of products, especially going to holidays like we talked about, all of a sudden prices are going to start to rise even more. And there was a lot of comments from the viewer or from the journalist about inflation, and boy, he really did start to dance around it. I've seen in the past, especially under Bernanke and Yellen, when they said, full employment, I believe they said full employment is 5.5%, right? That was their number. And then we got to 5.5 and we kept drifting lower and lower and lower, but they actually gave us a number. And one of the journalists today cornered him and said, Mr. Powell, could you give us some kind of framework as to when or what you're looking for to deem it to be full employment? And he goes, well, we really can't do that. There's no way to do that. Like with GDP, we can look at growth and have a specific number, but we can't do that with unemployment. I'm thinking, well, why can't you do that? It's because they don't want to. There's too many things there that are, that's a card up their sleeve, if you will. All he had to do was say, full employment to us is 4%. Great, blanket. But he started to backpedal a lot and say, well, you have people who are unemployed because of, healthcare. There was some issue with like healthcare issues or stay-at-home care. And I was like, in my mind, I'm thinking, it's because people don't want to go back to work. You need to incentivize people to go back to work here, Mr. Powell. But anyway, those are kind of the main two pieces. The other part was Steve Leisman, who I love Steve Leisman, even though I'm not a CNBC fan. He cornered Powell, and Powell said, hey, you know what? You mentioned 2% as your target for inflation, and you'll say you'll stay accommodative until we get there. Because inflation right now is 5%. Our analysts are saying 3% next year. So are you saying for the next 2.5 to 3 years, you guys are going to remain accommodative? And Jerome Powell just kind of kept backpedaling. I loved it. I thought it was awesome to see him kind of squirm in his seat a little bit. But that was our big news for the day, is really just Jerome Powell's speech. Now, of course, we could go and look at the overall markets. I know a lot of you are just going crazy over Tesla. Right, Tesla has just been on absolute fire here. A nice big update today to about 3.57% for Tesla today. All-time highs yet again, and I don't particularly trade Tesla. I've actually shorted it in the past, but you know, as much as I think this thing's way overvalued and way beyond its means, I still just don't have the chutzpah to go short on this one. I'm going to leave that one alone and do some other things. Yes, Big Eb talked about the crypto train. We'll get to the crypto train. I have a couple questions on that from people who has sent those in over the past week or so while I was gone. So what are some of the other big ones in the equity markets? Not a lot really with the equity markets. SLV. I didn't do it today, but I will we'll see about selling some puts here in the next day or two on silver. Again, I'm long-term bullish on silver, especially if we keep inflation rising. You know, I was selling the 21s and I got exercise and made a nice profit on that, but I'll be looking back at that one because silver's had a nice pullback from 23 down to 21.50 over the past week and a half. So that's going to be a good one. So we'll see how that happens. I'll let you guys know when I do make those trades going forward. All right, so let me go dive into listener questions here. I'll have a couple things to look at here with regards to economic announcements. Here's number one would be our earnings calendar for today, which is not today, right? Of course, I apparently am wrong with my numbers today. I don't know how I managed to oversee it. My plan was to be back doing shows for you guys on the 3rd or on the 2nd, which is why I am messed up so far in putting these dates on. So anyway, we'll change that to the 3rd. There you go. We got the 3rd in place now. As you can see, song remains the same, right? Earnings have seemed to be pretty darn good for just about everybody out there. There were a couple little misses here, but Roku with a big beat of 700% on their earnings announcement. I will shrink that down, make sure we got that Roku one. Yeah, there's Roku, and I'll show you that chart here in just a second. Roku, even though they beat earnings by so much, they're down 8.5%. I mean, it's crazy to think that you could beat earnings by 700% expectations and still have a horrible reaction. CVS also reported they had pretty good earnings, up 10%, but down there, Amarin, which don't even know what they do. Really, Electronic Arts is the one that I'll be looking at because EA kind of ties into one of the discussions today. It was up 4.66% on their earnings, right now trading at 146.60, which, as you can see here, kind of brings it back up to the high end of this range, which is interesting. It really hasn't looked great for the past year and a half on Electronic Arts, but that's where we are at 146.60 right now. All right, and as far as economic announcements, I know some people were asking, I think somebody mentioned crude oil in there just a minute ago. We did have crude oil inventories today, which were supposed to go from 4.3 million barrels to 1.9, came out at 3.3. So what you ended up with crude oil was a little bit of a supply shock. We ended up dropping, and here is your crude oil chart. You know, we may very well see a pullback back to the top of that range. So let me move this line right here. Top of that range being somewhere right around 77.50. You know, it's due for a pullback. It would actually be a confluence of things. It would be a retest of a breakout. It would also be coming right back to this moving average line, which I have as the 50-period moving average. That would be a logical price point for it. So let me see if I can scroll up and find exactly what that crude oil question was. Let's see. I missed it from yesterday. Where's the crude oil question? I guess I missed it. Yes, we get rid of the silly box. All right. Well, I can't seem to find the crude oil one. So if you have that crude oil question you want me to answer, just send it back in. The site one was redacted. All right. Now, more down on the economic calendar. So this was one that Ken actually asked this one. Said, Russell broke out. Now what? Well, as we looked at it earlier, we already removed the yellow box, right? So we're done with the yellow box. Get rid of that bad boy. The question is, where's it going to go? Now, this is a tough one. You know, right now it's all about setting an expectation on a level that's never been to. Right? There's no precedence for this. We can go back to a monthly time frame, and you guys can see here that going back. Oh, they only give me RTY. Let me go to IWM, just so you can see the ETF. Right? This is the lifespan of the ETF. Of course, Russell goes much further back than 2001, but this is just the data when the ETF was created. So, how do you measure something like this? You know, how do you forecast where you think it's going to go? And that's kind of a tricky one. A lot of people will use something like Fibonacci extensions. All right, so you can go in here and go fib retracement. There should be a fib extension line, which we can actually do on. All right, well, what we'll do is we will go from there up to there, and it should give you a fib extension level. So if I scroll down here, and it's not going to do it on this one, is it? It's got to go the other way. Convenient. All right, well, let's just flip these levels around, and we'll go from there to there. So let's assume we broke out of that level, and now it's going to say, hey, where do we think it's going to go? And again, this is so subjective. It's the one big challenge I have with fibs. If it does jump to that 1.618 extension, right, you're looking at a price level of 321 on the Russell. That's an $80 move higher on IWM. So obviously that'd be great, but I don't just look at the 1.618. I'm also going to be looking at that 1.382 level would be an important one, but it's just not programmed into the settings here for the Fibonacci extensions, which I can probably change here. Let me go in here and say style, and let's go add in. We're going to add in and go 1.382. So that's one, because to me that's going to be one of the first stops. So there you have another level, the 1.32, which puts you about 288 on the Russell 2000. Thanks, Tony. Good to be back. Chris, good to see you. David as well. Is it more fuzzy than normal? Is it the charts, or is it just my video, David? It's probably just my video because I haven't retuned my camera. And I think this is only recorded at 720p. The reason being, when I do 1080, I think it creates buffering issues for some people, so I moved it back to 720. I can try to bump it up because I do have a good connection, but I think it's some people's back-end downloads, but let me know. Anyway, Ken, that's really it. That's all I can say for the Russell. I mean, how else do you give an expectation of where it's going to go when it's never been there, right? That's why I love supply and demand, is we can find out exactly where it's been and start to build strategies about its probability getting back to those levels. Right now, I've got that Russell at all-time highs, and you look at just blue sky. That makes it very difficult to start shorting. And as I mentioned just a second ago, I am building a position, or building a pool of capital, if you will, to start shorting, but I need to wait for the market to confirm, because as irrational as this thing keeps going, screen share, huh? It should be. There's usually no distortion on my end when I share screens. Usually the video's blurry because of my camera, but I'm sharing desktop, so that should not be an issue whatsoever. I'll see if I can come to figure it out later on, but I can't do that right now. So that's it. So I got for you, Ken, on the Russell breakout. Now what? Just sit back and wait. If you're thinking about shorting it, if not, it should be a go long thing. If anything, it may actually pull a retest, right? So what should happen normally in a breakout situation like this is, let me get rid of my fibs here. Actually, let me put these lines on here just so we can kind of keep those going forward, and I'll label those a little bit later, but I want to get the fibs off here because it's taking up too much space. Okay, so normally what you'll get when something is traversed sideways like this, you'll get that breakout with higher volume, which of course you can see we have right now. You have breakout with significant volume. It'll usually rally a little bit and then pull back and retest. So I'm expecting it to come back to 234, and then it should kind of pop up from there and continue to run. All right, well, let me see if I can figure out why that blur is. Maybe I'll have to see if I can bump it up to 1080. Yeah. All right, well, I can't change that now, but I will do my best. Tomorrow's show, I'll tweak it. I haven't messed with anything, so it hasn't changed at all from previous shows. All right, so that was Ken's question. Russell broke out. Now what? We've got next question is going to be from... So we talked about this a while back, Lee. You said thoughts on Baba. We looked at Baidu and Baba a few weeks ago. Any change? Yes, actually, there is a change there. So there was one other one that you mentioned as well. I think it was FXI, or I don't know if it was you mentioned it, but let's start with FXI, which is the China ETF. I'm still not really a fan of the China ETF. So, if you look at, and this again goes back to just my way of analysis, which is you can see that it's gaining slight strength. And what I mean by that is, yes, it's making this higher low right now, but it's not enough for me to, I guess, feel comfortable with it. I fixed it with my settings on YouTube. Yeah, for those of you on YouTube, you might be able to click the, there's a little cog underneath the video, and I think you might be able to change it to a different resolution. All right, so FXI doesn't look great. It's still making that same high right around 42.56, so I don't like FXI, but when you look at something like Baba, Baba broke those highs, and I haven't drawn any lines on this. This was from our previous session, and you notice a couple different things. First, when we looked at it a couple weeks ago, or a month or so ago, it was still in a nice downtrend. So it was going lower and lower and lower, and then all of a sudden you had this little bounce. And I was like, well, it's not out of the woods yet. It's still trending down. You've got this moving average is still pointing down. It has not made a new high, and consequently, over the past 2.5 weeks, we have broken a new high. So we made a new high. Now it's coming back down to a retest, which honestly right here looks like where it should stop. It's right on the moving average. It's right at the low point from, let me get the exact date for you guys since you probably can't read the chart, October 12th. So those two factors make me feel a bit more optimistic. I mean, I actually would be okay at buying Alibaba here. Now, let me make a big asterisk on this one. I'd be okay buying Alibaba here, but if I'm not mistaken, and I'll show you guys here in a second, I think they report earnings tomorrow. So you're taking a gamble by buying it before the earnings announcement. Definite gamble. So be careful if you plan on it. But if you could buy this and put a stop loss somewhere just below this, I think it's actually a fairly decent trade. And you can see why. We're right at the moving average, which is a psychological level for retail investors and institutional. You're at somewhat of a demand zone, albeit it's a little bit weak. All right, and then put your stop loss down somewhere below that. So, stop loss, 160, 159, somewhere in that ballpark to give it a little room to wiggle. But my assumption will be that earnings tomorrow could take you out of this position. So let me just make sure here that they're reporting earnings tomorrow. Yep, Baba. They're slated to report. They haven't given a before market or after market, but that's typical for Chinese companies. There you go. So Alibaba, I actually like it. I think it's looking good. Baidu, on the other hand, their earning is not tomorrow. It looks much better. And I think we actually talked about this. We said, look, it's making a higher low. All of a sudden now it's making some higher highs. It's sticking that moving average. Both of these look pretty good as potential buy points. So I actually, I don't own any Baidu. I don't own any Alibaba, but they do look potentially good from the long perspective as they've been on pretty significant downturns. I'm sure a lot of this has to do with supply chain disruption. Which one? No. This guy right here, it's a bit choppy. All right, you have a little. It's a subject to interpretation. I would call this a Quasimodo if you're saying inverted on Baidu. Let's go to Alibaba. It might look better. Yes, this one looks more like an inverted head and shoulders, right? So you have your left shoulder here, the head, and now it's forming the right shoulder, which means if we get above this 180 mark or 181, you could have a nice move to the upside. So, for what it's worth, it does look goodly. I like it. It's always dangerous to be playing with these things right before earnings announcement, and that is tomorrow, tentatively scheduled. Cool. All right, what do I got next? Jess, can you explain what happened to the squid token? I understand how it can drop like that. Did anybody watch? There's a guy on YouTube. Let's see if I can find him here real quick for you. I played it yesterday for my Crypto Investor Live program, but I think it might be worth playing again. Excuse me. It was the guy, he was trading live and calling it as it came out. And it was so funny when he did. Let me see if I can pull it up here. All right, so bear with me. Bring this up full screen. We'll make it full screen. Come on.
So the market cap.
Okay. I'm hoping you guys can all hear it. So let me set the stage for you. So one of the things I talk about a lot in the Crypto Investor Live program is how stupid some people are. And I don't mean that condescending. I actually mean it's embarrassing how stupid some people are. And you look at these cryptocurrencies, and it's so easy to get lured in and drawn into shitcoins, which basically they serve no purpose. They don't do anything. They're there to make whoever created them rich. That's it. There's no use case scenario. You can't use them anywhere. You can't do anything with them. Yet people are scrambling to buy this crap. And I just shake my head at it. So the squid token, which if you were to dig down and look at the smart contracts, apparently in there it says that you can't sell it. Okay, so you now bought something that has no use case scenario, and you can't use it anywhere. There are only two exchanges that you could possibly trade it on, and they're swap sites. Not even exchanges. They're DeFi swap sites. And you can't sell it. So if you bought that, you can't point the finger at anybody else, right? Shame on you. So what happened is this thing went from like a couple pennies to several $1,000s per coin in a matter of a couple days. The Squid Games coin, which of course, me being the VIP and all, I should have access to. So here is a live video that the guy was recording as he watched it. And in literally under 1 second, it went from $2,800 to zero. It lost 99.9999999% of its money in 1 second. And here is it live as this guy is YouTubing and streaming it. And I thought it's worth a laugh. Hopefully you guys can hear this. Let me play it.
So the market cap is $2.168 trillion. And now the market, oh, it went to zero. So the market cap is
watch right here, guys. So you can't see it. I know it might be hard to see on the chart, but it's right here is the current price. And watch how quick it's moved. This level up here is $2,800, right? It literally had a $2.8 trillion market cap, making it bigger than Microsoft, or bigger than Microsoft and Apple. But watch how fast it falls.
$1 trillion.
Boom. That was 1 second, guys. 1 second it went to zero. And I love his reaction.
And now the market, it went to zero.
So, sorry, I feel like I'm laughing at the demise of people's accounts. But again, this is one of those things that you should just never touch. And Big Eb says, then again, $10 in SHIB 15 months ago, you'd be a millionaire. Yes. And it's a good point, Big Eb, and I think this is that conundrum that we all find ourselves in. It's saying, in the case of something like Shiba Inu, right? If you don't know what Shiba Inu is, it's a joke of another joke coin. They call them meme coins, but I think it should be called a joke coin because Dogecoin was created as a joke. That's the whole thing. It was a joke. And then, it got real popular and someone said, hey, we'll create other dog coins. So there's Shiba Inu, Lasha Apsu, it's so ridiculous. And it serves Shiba Inu, you really can't use it anywhere. Yes, and people on social media are coming after me because I had one guy said, I'll bet you anything that your Shiba Inu coin is not going to be $1. There's no way mathematically that can happen. And all of a sudden, all these people are going, you're an idiot, you don't know what you're talking about. I'm like, then bet me. Then just shut up and put your money where your mouth is. And this one guy, bravo to him. He wants to, I haven't confirmed with him. I said, are we cool? You want to make this bet? And he's like, he gave me a thumbs up. Well, I want a yes on social media because what he was betting me is that Shiba Inu coin will be 0.1 cents, so 10 cents, by the end of 2023. Now, you're like, wow, 10 cents doesn't seem like much. For that to happen, right now, Shiba Inu, there's 500 trillion of their tokens. 500 trillion. So if it got to 10 cents, their market cap would be $50 trillion. Now, Bitcoin, which is used all around the world by countries, by economies, and being absorbed by businesses, has a market cap of over 1 trillion, not 20 or 30 or 40. In this case, this guy's thinking it's going to be 50 times bigger than Bitcoin. There's no way on earth when nobody is using this shit coin, it would ever be worth that much. So I bet him $1,000, and hopefully anybody else want to take me up on that wager, I am more than happy to take anybody up on that bet. It's the easiest money I'll ever make. Anyway, going back to the discussion, there out of the 13,516 cryptocurrencies out there right now, I'm going to say that probably 5,000 are absolute shitcoins. They don't even have a plan behind them. They basically took someone's code and they're just trying to get you to buy it so they can get rich. Now, as Naum says, how does that happen? And Jess said the same thing as well. So here's how it happens. So if you guys have watched I have a crypto foundations thing that OTA put out there that's free. And that's 6 videos. The second part, which is digital assets, and it's got like 43 videos. One of those videos talks about, actually, no, that's in the CIL. Crypto Investor Live videos talk about liquidity pools. So what is a liquidity pool? A liquidity pool is where you usually take 2 assets, and let's say it's Squid token and it's Ethereum. So it's usually a big one or a stable coin like Squid token and DAI or Tether or USD, right? So make it a Squid and a stable coin. So what happens is if I wanted to, I could create my own and call it the TraderMerlin coin, TraderMerlin token, whatever you want to call it, and I could create a liquidity pool, and I put in, let's say, $1 million worth of TraderMerlin tokens and $1 million worth of, let's say, Tether, right? A stable coin. So there's a $2 million pool. So what happens is people want to buy the TraderMerlin coin. So they jump in and they buy the TraderMerlin. So in order to do so, they're going to have to put in buy it with Ethereum. So they put more Tether. So they buy it with Tether, which means this liquidity pool has now a lot more Tether in it. So there's algorithms and arbitrageurs that are there to balance that equation out. So what happened is these guys who created the Squid Game token went to PancakeSwap, which is a swap site, and they deposited a bunch of money and Squid Game tokens. So what happened is they were on social media pumping it. Oh, it's up 100%, it's up 200%, it's up 1,000%, it's up 5,000%, it's up 10,000, and just boom, boom. In a matter of a week. Let me see if I can bring up the chart for you on the Squid token after I get past this. That was so funny. Let me get that one out of here. We'll go to CoinMarketCap, and I'll show you how it works. So people keep buying from this pool, which just drives up the price of the Squid token, right? And then what happened is the people who created it basically dump all their Squid tokens and pull the money out. Because you created this buying frenzy where all these retail noob idiots are buying this coin that does nothing and serves no purpose whatsoever. It's like NFTs, right? There's no purpose served by these degenerate ape NFTs and things like that. NFTs are great, but not in the manner that they're being done right now. A lot of those are going to turn to nothing, right? Somebody spent $500 million on a pixelized picture of a hippie. 500 million bucks. You know what I'm going to do with $500 million? I'll buy about 4 or 5 houses. I'll rent those out and get income streams. Plus, then I will invest in income generating streams and set myself up for life so I don't have to do a damn thing. Instead, this guy's got a static picture about this big that he owns the original rights to. Bravo. You're almost as dumb as the person who bought the Squid Game token. Anyway, so those guys pulled the rug. And the thing was, because these guys who bought the Squid token couldn't sell, they're just stuck. So let me show you the Squid one. And you can see there's a whole bunch of different ones, but the Squid Game one is the funniest one. So here it is. It's up 275% today. So you guys want to go out and buy some, have at it. 275% today. Okay, well, let's go look at it on the big picture here. So this is it today, but here's the last 7 days. It went up to over 2,800 bucks. Bam. And you can see just a week ago. So I think it was who was saying that if you Big Eb said if you bought $10 worth of Shiba Inu a year ago, you'd be a millionaire. Well, if you bought like $10 worth of Squid Game token on my birthday, you'd be a billionaire. Well, if you got out at the peak, right? Back here on October 26th, this thing was trading at 2 cents. You go back 3 months when this was created, still 2 cents was about as cheap as it got, 1 penny, right? And then it went up to $2,800 in a matter of. I mean, honestly, as this thing was flying up to $300, I would have unloaded everything I have. Anyway, Alex, hey, sorry about your Astros, buddy. Next year, I want to see you with a ring on your finger, man. Get that World Series ring. Anyway, and congrats to the Atlanta Braves, by the way, for those who are Atlanta Braves fan. So now that's how it happens. You have one location where you could have traded this, and let me show you how you find that. So if you look here, this is the Squid Game price chart, but you click on Market, and this is where you can buy it. So these are the only exchanges that you can buy it on. And there's only 3 markets. There's Squid and Wrapped BNB. And then there's Squid and a BTCB token. Right? That's the only way you can buy this thing. So you deposit real money, which would be BTCB or Wrapped BNB, and then you buy your Squid tokens. Well, you can see the volume is rather low. I mean, 11 million is not a ton. So all total, it looks to be about 13 or $14 million worth of transactions happening today. But when you have very low liquidity and only 1 or 2 places that you can buy or sell, and someone dumps a big quantity, that's when you have your problems. And that's one of the things we spent, actually Thursday's lesson for Crypto Investor Live is we're going to be analyzing something called Phantom. And a couple months ago, we did another cryptocurrency where we'll look at liquidity risk. We'll look at, the bag holders, like who has the most tokens. By analyzing Squid Games, you would never have bought this thing knowing that the vast majority of all the Squid tokens were held by one person or one wallet. Oh, 3 rings. Oh, you are lucky, but I know you had 3 rings. Man. Well, congrats to that. I got my daughter crypto for the most part. She has made the right investments, but is trading these shit coins now. And, well, and again, I don't want to make it seem like you should never trade these shit coins, but it shouldn't be with the big bulk of your capital. Like Big Eb said a little bit ago, if you dump $10 into Squid Games, who cares, right? But if you find yourself saying, hey, you know what, I'm putting $100,000 into Squid Games, now you have a problem. If something goes wrong there, you're losing everything. These are the flyers. This is the gamble account, right? This is the one that you pretty much know you're going to lose that money. But if you don't, well, hey, you might get rich in the process. So I generally don't trade shitcoins. I have a couple really small cap ones, but they all have a purpose, right? They're designed to do something. And I wonder if there's a way. I know that on CoinMarketCap, I wonder if you can actually go into categories and just go to meme stocks. So let's go to categories, and I'll do a search. Control F. So here's the meme stocks. These are all, so basically everything here is a shitcoin, right? So you got the Samoyed coin, right? Another dog. Hogue Finance, Tiger King, right? These aren't going to do anything. And it's got $165 million market cap. I mean, Shiba Inu is at $32 billion. It's just unbelievable that something that serves no purpose has $32 billion market cap. So all of these are shitcoins. Banano, Doge Dash, Doggy, right? You're just trying to piggyback them. Shiba Vax. So this is taking Shiba Inu plus AVAX, which is Avalanche, and trying to make that work. Wownero, right? Now you're looking at Monero, and they're trying to just, this is a good one. The loser coin. Garlic coin. I mean, this is just so unbelievably stupid in my mind. And there's hundreds of them, guys. The Floki Inu. This was the Elon Musk one because his dog's name is Floki. Anyway, my rant is over. So just that's how it happens. You have something that's so thinly traded, and then architecturally in the back end, you have the code is written in the smart contract so that the people who buy it can't sell. So now all of a sudden they're trapped. And, unfortunately, I don't do this either. I don't really read in the smart contracts, but I do look and see what kind of lockup periods there are if I'm buying any shitcoins. If I'm buying something I'm going to hold for a long time, like Polkadot, which has been doing very, very good. This site, Alex, this is CoinMarketCap. It's a good go-to for, resources for analyzing the market. Adam says, Merlin, do you like Matic? For those that know crypto, you know that Ethereum has a major problem right now. And Ethereum's problem is the network is bogged down. The fees on Ethereum are just off the charts ridiculous. So what Polygon does, Polygon is Matic, it actually creates a second layer. So you can do more transactions on the second layer and they get reported down to the base layer. So it's not bogging down Ethereum anymore. It's actually it's like a relief valve. It takes pressure off of Ethereum, and then on that second layer it does all the transactions and batches them and reports down to Ethereum. That's critical. I think same thing for Lightning Network. Like Lightning Network does that to Bitcoin, and it's helping the transaction volume increase. However, as soon as Ethereum goes from proof of work to proof of stake, their transaction speed is going to increase by a factor of 100. So now they're going to go from 15 transactions per second to 1,500 transactions per second, which means fees will drop significantly. Now I question the validity or the necessity to have a layer 2 on Ethereum. Right? Why would you need it if all of a sudden I'm going 10x more transactions or 100x more transactions, and that was the problem back in the day. So, and then they're also going to do sharding down the road, which is another 100x. So in theory, Ethereum's looking at doing 150,000 transactions per second. So do we need a layer 2? I don't know. I'm excited for Matic right now, but I think down the road, the utility and necessity of us layer 2 on something that has 150,000 transactions per second, it's not going to be needed. So the market maker algo can be manipulated anyway. Yes, absolutely. So it's called an AMM, right? So it's an automated market maker with these liquidity pools. And that automated market maker is simply an algorithm that's trying to keep that balance at 50-50. So if I put in 50 Squid tokens and 50 Tether tokens, it's supposed to be equal. So there always should be 50 or half and half. So if all of a sudden a whole bunch of Tether comes in to buy Squid tokens, the amount of Squid tokens in there will drop, and the amount of Tether is going to increase in the pool. So the automated market maker is going to do some calculations and sell some things. Arbitrageurs will come in and balance it out, so it gets back to even. It's kind of confusing. Big Eb says, so is it time for me to exit Ethereum? Not yet. Not with this momentum. Boy, it's moving really good right now. So no, I'm not out yet. I'll really start considering that in January. January is kind of my reevaluation point, Big Eb. I'm just curious. I think that there's going to be a problem for Ethereum right near the transition from proof of work to proof of stake. If I'm a miner, I am not pleased at what's happening right now, and I'm going to be pissed off, and I will probably sabotage the system just to make a point. So I think you'll have some issues in Ethereum getting forward. All right, let's see. Woo Woo! Is that a fish song? Unfortunately, Adam, I don't know a lot about the Woo network. I mean, it's pretty high up on there. Anything, as soon as you get in the top 100, you're good. It's up to top 127. I don't know, so I can't really make a statement about that. Having a hell of a day, up 9%. Here's your 1 day, so a nice move up for it. But I don't know much about it to be feel qualified to make comments on it. Is it a shit coin? I don't know. I'd have to go look and see what they do. And we have a sheet that we use in the Crypto Investor Live program that will help everybody understand: is this thing a shit coin? Right? What is it used for? Who's in it? What are the projects? How are they going to achieve their goals? Is there a treasury? What's the tokenomics? So all these things have to be looked at, which I can't just do right now, but maybe down the road we will. All right. An associate mining Ethereum is making $35 per day. Awesome. I mean, better than nothing, right? But no, what's going to happen is as soon as they go to proof of stake, he's going to make nothing per day. Zero. So as a miner, do you think he's going to be upset? I mean, granted, his amount of income there is small, $35 per day. But there are mining farms the size of Costco who are making tens of thousands of dollars per day. And if that all of a sudden disappears, their business is done. Yeah. How can you buy using supply and demand with those charts? Same principle. I mean, and again, this is why you don't do it on shitcoins, Margaret, right? Because they could be up 1,000% one day and down 5,000 the next. It's crazy. But you look over here to something, here's the list of portfolio, like Avalanche, right? There's not any real strong demand zones here, but you can see there's a spot that I'm actually thinking about buying some more if it gets down to 56. You've got Luna. So I am using, and a lot of these levels aren't very strong. This one's done, by the way. I'm really surprised Cardano is just floundering and not looking good anymore. That's a surprise to me. Here's Matic that was just asked about. The chart looks great. This is more of a pattern breakout. This is a breakout trade we're analyzing. Algorand, so I've got some spots in Algorand I want to buy. Polkadot as well. I've got some levels, and I'll actually, I'm looking right here. Polkadot, talk about being awesome. And for those that were in the Crypto Investor Live program, as a group, we ended up buying on a 5-to-1 leveraged futures product some Polkadot. It actually ended up being 115% rate of return over the weekend. All because of that one move right there. So there's, I might be looking at that level as well as a potential buy point. But, Margaret, I use the same thing. I use the same supply and demand methodology. Some of these more liquid ones have better trending price charts. If you look at, Shiba Inu and these ones, they don't. They're just not great charts. Man, Solana, what a great breakout. We bought this one as a class. Some of you might have been in there. 156.10 was my buy point on this one. And man, talk about, you're up $90 per share, per token right now. Awesome. Gotta love DOT and Solana. Yep, I love DOT. Now, Polkadot's my favorite because, again, they have a major event happening November 11th, and that is fueling this. And if you look at DOT, all right, you look there as your Polkadot, and let's go monthly. All right, let's go weekly. I'll make it a little bit better. So here's your weekly chart of Polkadot. It started off way down here, and the $4 is now at 54. But their sister site, which is their test network, is Kusama. And look at Kusama. Kusama was down here at $4, and it hit a peak of 600. So I'm expecting something similar from Polkadot because this is really the test net for Polkadot. What they're using on Polkadot now was developed and implemented here. But I think Polkadot's going to end up just soaring here. But, that's just my 2 cents on it. Any thoughts on where PayPal stands? Long seem interesting here. PYPL. I agree with you. I think that this is just a pullback. Now, the challenging part is you see all these little wicks down here? That really, to me, does not create a strong base. However, almost today, you almost hit that dead low, which is right around 223. So sure, I think it does look decent as a pullback trade. I probably would wait myself to go a little bit deeper, get down to 215 because I like this rally-based rally out of it. But grand scheme of things, it looks overextended. But this last pullback from 314 all the way down to 230 is a good buy point. So it's worth taking a chance for me. You just got to be careful, Adam, with everything. Put stop losses in case they're wrong. Let's see. If I was going to buy 3 cryptos on Kraken, which do you suggest to look at? Ooh, gosh, Mike, that's a huge question. You got to figure out what your goals and objectives are. My top 3 holdings right now are Bitcoin, Ethereum, Polkadot. Those are my top 3. That's not saying that you need to be buying Polkadot, Ethereum, or Bitcoin, but those are my big three. I don't expect to have like the 10x move out of Bitcoin, whereas if I look at something that might be a smaller cap crypto, I might get a bigger percentage rate of return, but I also want to keep bulk of my assets in Bitcoin because of what Bitcoin represents, and I do think the supply and demand equation for Bitcoin will continue to move on up. All right, there was a big question earlier, which I want to make sure I get to. I think this was, where was that one? From Amol. Remember, historically, when such economic scenarios happen, where inflation started to rise during a Fed intervention economy coming back on track, and when the Fed started to taper down, revert an intervention, how did the markets react the next few months? What it looked like? I'm kind of going off the top of my head on that one, Amol, but generally you get the markets rallying. It's almost like getting that last little bit of excitement. And then after another month or two, when the realization is that, they are in fact going to be tapering and doing all this action, then things start to slow down a little bit. So we'll have to wait and see. Maybe if I feel better, I'll do some research later on and I can overlay those charts and get everybody focused on them. Okay, do I have any other questions? Oh, yeah, this is a tough one. What time do I got? Oh, man, I'm going to do an hour show today, and I have a meeting right at 3. Here's the last question for today. Can you look at Activision Blizzard today? I hold 200 shares, and it's down big today. I think they had earnings. I don't know. Let's go. ATVI. Oh, yeah. Not looking so good. So, what do we want to do with that one? For Scott, well, if you're in Activision right now, let me turn off volume because it's kind of obscuring my chart here. First off, it wasn't a pretty aggressive downtrend. Now, granted, over the past 2.5, 3 weeks, it looks like it's been making higher highs, higher lows. But my assumption is they came out with earnings, and that usually is a reason to avoid. Let me see. I think that they did the ATVI. I don't see them as reporting earnings today. Maybe it was last night. But, the question is now what to do. Well, if you look where we're at, I think you got to still a little bit lower before you see any kind of demand zones. All right, you can see some stuff back in here, but that's one of those ones personally where I would probably just sell it, lick my wounds, and move on. You're down 14% on that one today alone. I'm glad you only have 200 shares, but it just doesn't look good. You could protect yourself, maybe use some option strategies to try to protect your current position, or sell some calls higher up against your position and try to generate some extra income, but I didn't look at the financials or what was released on Activision, but it doesn't look very good right now. What's happening with DOT on November 11th? They're doing their parachain auction. It's the first parachain auction for the network. If you think of the Lord of the Rings, there was the one ring to rule them all. And if you look at what Polkadot is doing, they're creating an infrastructure that's basically like a ring that allows everybody to plug in and communicate with each other. So it's a way for you to go and bridge different blockchains. So you could have Bitcoin communicating with Ethereum, communicating with Chainlink, communicating with Polkadot, and that speeds things up a little bit. So that's why I'm interested in, and they go live with their auctions November 11th. Oh, it's downgraded today. So they basically probably missed earnings and then got downgraded by somebody, so a double whammy. Yeah. Yeah, I'd have the earnings counter, but yeah. I don't know. That's a tough one. Got a couple things. Again, sell some options against it, or just get out and lick your wounds. All right. Hey, well, I'm glad to be back, everybody. Here is what we've got cooking for tomorrow, just so we can get this out of the way, and then I can go back and lay down in bed, because then all of a sudden I'm feeling tired. For the 4th of November, you've got Alibaba, which we already looked at. Now, that's tentative. You can see there's the double dashes there. China reporting is always wonky. You have one that I am actually very interested in, Square. So Square has also been a big proponent of cryptocurrency. They're going to report after market close. You've got Cronus Group, which is cannabis. You've got Turtle Beach, Illumina, and Southern Company reporting earnings tomorrow. And on the economic front, there's actually a lot more than this, so I just kind of truncated it down. We did have a rate statement coming out for the U.S. today. Well, you have that for the UK tomorrow, as they're going to be coming out with their official bank rate numbers, which is expected to stay at 0.1%. But given the fact that the U.S. is talking about tapering their purchases, we'll see if there's any talk track about that from the UK as well. If you're trading the euro, you have PPI numbers tomorrow coming out for a lot of the different countries, as well as the EU as a whole. And then down near the bottom, you can see the U.S. coming out with natural gas storage tomorrow, which, of course, if you were following the natural gas price charts, it has been a wild ride for natural gas, and the last couple of days have been a great bounce right off that 50-period moving average. All right, guys, that's going to do it for me. Thank you very much. I'm glad to be back. I apologize for missing yesterday. I was like racing, and I thought I'll be able to do it. No, not as bad as I felt. So I will go crawl back into bed and enjoy. Fortunately, no baseball to watch, but we'll have to do. If you guys have any comments, questions, feedback, things you want me to cover for tomorrow's show, let me know. You can send them in at TraderMerlin@gmail.com. Send them on in there, and hopefully I'll get to all those questions on today's show. For those that did send in questions today, I do appreciate it. So for Scott and for Jess, Lee, and Ken, thank you guys so much. Hope to see you guys on tomorrow's show. Take care.